SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
Shallow Apothecary is your local family-owned pharmacy in Corinth who knows you by name. Contracted with North Mississippi's primary healthcare 340B program. We're the only ones around with in-house compounding capabilities. Check out the Shallow Pack program to take the stress out of your medication management. ShallowApothecary.com.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Mississippi.
Everything gonna be all right this morning.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Oh, yeah.
Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Woo! Now, when I was a young boy, at the age of 5, my mother said I was gonna be the greatest man alive. But now I'm a man.
Thursday morning. Good morning to you. This is Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi. We're available everywhere. Streaming online at supertalk.fm. Just pull it up on your computer. SuperTalk TV right there, available to you to stream through the website as well. Of course, on your SuperTalk Mississippi radio stations and on the go for you. Grab the show Mornings with Richard Cross as a podcast and listen at your convenience. It's that easy. We're glad to be with you. Thursday morning, which means the weekend is just around the corner. Today is the 19th of June. We are one day away from the longest day of the year, from the official start of summer. And it kind of feels like it out there. Warm and muggy. Lance, I had to, late yesterday afternoon, I had a couple of, just little chores outside. Cleaning some stuff up, straightening some things up after being out of town. And I bet I was outside for, I'm going to say half an hour. Probably 7:15 to 7:30. And, brother, when I got inside, I was soaking wet. And I'm not the world's biggest sweater, but it didn't matter. And this was not like super, super strenuous activity. It was just kind of out and active-ish. And, buddy, I mean, it's almost like I had jumped in the shower.
Oh, yeah, it's easy. I'm actually a professional at sweating, so
I knew that about you.
I can just sit there and get a good brow sweat kicking. And this morning was nice. It's coming and going a bit, though. You get some wind down here, and then it'll be feel like 100 degrees like it's going to feel today. Heat index values around 99 here in the Jackson area. So for your Juneteenth, yeah, we are in the middle of it now. And the bugs know it. Man, I've just been getting eaten up. I don't know what's different this year.
Skeeters?
This is everything. I just smell so good and look so good and delicious that they just can't stand me, man. I don't know, but goodness gracious, they've been brutal.
Going to have some showers in some spots today. Ripley, you're cloudy with showers. High of 87. Winds out of the west-southwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Chance of rain for you in Ripley today, 70%. Philadelphia, thunderstorms likely this morning. The chance of scattered thunderstorms in the afternoons with a high of 86. Got a 70% chance of rain today in Philly. Woodville, southwest Mississippi. Partly cloudy this morning. Scattered thunderstorms this afternoon. Checking in at 91 degrees today. About a 50% chance of rain. 50% chance of rain today in Wiggins as well. Partly cloudy. Scattered thunderstorms this afternoon. High of 92. 50% chance of rain in Wiggins. So, just a sample of some of the forecast. And you said heat index 99 in Jackson today?
Yeah, it's high about 90, but the values of the heat index could reach as high as 99. So, yeah, it'll feel pretty hot, even if it's only 90 degrees. So that's the way it's felt, though. It's been 5 or 10 degrees hotter feeling than it actually is temperature-wise. I guess that's probably because you got a little breeze kicking for a little bit, and then it just dies, and you get a rainstorm blow through. Yesterday, no different. I think it's been about every day here, late afternoon, about it's time to watch the World Series, the 1 o'clock game. Something comes through and wettens everything back down and gets it steamy again. So
yeah. Jim and Ripley says, cloudy my eye. I just saw Noah drift by. Well, I guess it's actually raining right now.
Goodness gracious.
Okay, well, I mean, gave you 60% chance, better odds than not, so we'll go score one for Weatherman Richard today.
I haven't had anyone yet tell me how bad I am at doing the weather for the Delta, so thank y'all. I appreciate it. The crops are growing, and I hadn't run nothing yet. So, But yeah, in the Delta, same thing. You can have a little possibility of rain again after about 5 o'clock today. Same way with Jackson, and heat index values a little lower, but not by much. So,
well, to Jim and to Dave, thanks for listening in Ripley this morning. Glad to have you along for the ride.
You ever done the first Monday or second Monday or second Tuesday or what? Jim knows he's the one to keep. Man, what a cool
first
place!
Monday,
First Monday,
and it's been a long time.
Yeah, what a cool place.
It's quite the flea market, right?
Yeah. Ripley's cool.
That's
cool
not
spot.
one of those things where that's offensive to call it. It is a flea market.
Yeah, it's like downtown too. So, I mean, it's a big deal.
Yeah,
been
but
going
I
on
mean,
forever.
like sometimes things have names other than what we call them.
I think they call it First Monday or something.
Well, yeah.
But it
First
is a
Monday's
flea
the name.
market. Yeah, got all the good stuff up there.
Mm-hmm. I was trying. Oh yeah, 89% humidity today in Oxford.
Oh, good. Yeah, get back out there and do you some more work.
You won't have any trouble if you need to sweat it out just a little bit. I got some birthdays for you. This one is kind of off the radar, but as I was reading through, I thought she deserves a mention. The power of the woman is unquestioned.
Yeah, I know where you're going with this one.
The power of the woman is undefeated. Yeah. Born on this day in 1896 and described as American divorcee.
And socialite, yeah.
And socialite. Wallace Simpson, whom British King Edward VIII abdicated his throne to marry, was born in Blue Ridge Summit, Pennsylvania. I mean, Wallace...
She had it going on.
Got the king to say, you know what? Being king's not so good. I'm out. I'm going to hand in my crown, hand in my scepter. I'll give up the big nice chair with the red velvet and the gold trim. He gave up the throne.
Yeah, she was previously married twice, too. I mean, the King of England married a twice divorcee and said, yeah, man, I'll give up the throne for that.
Yeah. Mo Howard of Larry, Curly, and Moe fame was born on this day in 1897. Moe, one of the Three Stooges, all-time funny guy, born in Brooklyn. Lou Gehrig, born on this day, 1903. First baseman, 6-time World Series winner, 2-time All-Star. I'm sorry, 7-time All-Star, 2-time MVP. Born in New York City. What do you think for a New York kid, born in New York City, and you grow up to play for the Yankees?
Couldn't be any cooler than that, huh?
Only to become one of the all-time greats. Lou Gehrig taken from us far, far too soon. Paula Abdul, born on this day in 1962. I may have to get you to reach into the deep cuts and get me a little straight up now. Tell me, do you really want to love me forever? Ooh, ooh, ooh. I meant to pull it up and forgot. Singer-songwriter, choreographer, TV personality. Felt like Paula Abdul's star had faded pretty significantly, and then came American Idol. Boris Johnson, 61 years old today, born in 1964, the British conservative politician, prime minister in the United Kingdom 2019 to 2022. 08 to 16, he was the mayor of London, born in New York City. Did you know that?
No.
I did not either.
Did not know that
one. That one struck me as a little odd.
Hey, don't forget about the starting of the run on Archdukes of Austria.
Yeah.
On this day in 1867, the first of the Archdukes was assassinated down there in Mexico, Maximilian. Not long after that, back in, 1912, you had Franz Ferdinand. He was executed, started World War I, basically. So those Archdukes of Austria, they had a rough life, man. to be as pampered and spoiled. They were getting knocked off one after another.
You better off being King Edward VIII or
just
Archduke
abdicate.
of Austria.
Just marry a divorcee and roll on.
On this day in 1865, Union General Gordon Granger declared slaves are free in Texas. It is now the date of the end of slavery and is celebrated across the United States as Juneteenth. June the 19th, 1865 originally. On this day in 1900, Republican Party nominee William McKinley, the Republican Party nominated William McKinley for re-election, but they chose a new candidate for vice president. Garrett Hobart had died in November of 1899, and so the Republican Party said, Teddy Roosevelt, it is your turn. Hobart was an American businessman and politician who was the 24th vice president, serving 1897 until 1899 under President William McKinley. We'll get to the news headlines with you coming up next. It's Mornings with Richard Cross. Good morning to you, Super Talk, Mississippi.
From the Venable Glass.
No filibuster. Just everything you need to know to start your day smarter. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Would like to get my love caught in the slamming door. How about some information, please? Straight up now, tell me, do you really wanna love me forever? Oh, oh, oh. Or am I caught in a hit and run? Straight up now,
My
tell
boy.
me, is it gonna be you and me together? Oh, oh, oh. Or are you
Oh,
just
the great Paula Abdul. And evidence that the word great is sometimes overused. I think I could have said the great Lou Gehrig and been very much on board. I think I probably could have said the great Wallace Simpson and you'd have been on board. But Paula Abdul,
She had some hits.
she did. On this day in 1910, Father's Day was celebrated for the first time in Spokane, Washington. Did not know that was the originating place of Father's Day.
Yeah, I mean, I read that earlier today, and I was kind of wondering what was the connection with Spokane. I couldn't find one quick enough to have an answer. So,
Yeah,
I'm with you on that. I don't understand the connection, but thank you, Spokane.
yeah, great idea.
Yeah,
And we
excellent
hope
work.
you all had a great Father's Day this past Sunday. On this day in 1937, Robert Johnson sat down for the second of two legendary recording sessions with producer Don Law at the Vitagraph Studios in Dallas, Texas. It was called the Vitagraph Session. Gone far too soon. We didn't get nearly enough music from Robert Johnson, but man, what we got was great. How about this day? If you're a baseball fan, can you imagine this happening on the same day? 1973, Pete Rose playing for the Cincinnati Reds and Willie Davis playing for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Both recorded their 2000th Major League hit. Did it on the same day. Rose had a single, fitting, in a 4-0 win over San Francisco, and Davis hit a home run in a 3-0 win over Atlanta. What are the odds?
Very small, wouldn't it be? I mean, goodness, 2,000 hits?
Yeah.
I
guess it would have been cool if they had been playing against each other.
Yeah, that would have
If
been.
that had happened in the exact same day, maybe it would have made it more rare, but pretty rare as it is.
Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine 2,000 hits in a professional setting and two dudes doing that on the exact same day. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're not good. One of those guys was. I don't remember the other one very well, but I mean, 2,000 hits, that's takes a little while. I wonder if they had similar career paths or if one, you just got a bunch of hits early or what. But, yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, Willie Davis heck of a career with the Dodgers. I mean, anytime you say 2,000 hits, you're like, yeah, okay, it was pretty good. He passed away in 2010. Let's see, Willie Davis. How many years did he play in the big leagues? He was there. Made his major league debut in 1960 with the Dodgers. And his last big league game was in 1979 with the California Angels. Career 279 hitter, over 2,500 hits.
Yeah, 2561,
1,000 ribbies.
279, that's
for 19 years?
Yeah.
It's not bad, brother.
That's bringing it there.
Not too shabby. On this day in 1978, the great Garfield, created by Jim Davis, first appeared as a comic strip. Now, that's how a lot of you remember, right? A lot of you remember Garfield as a comic strip. Not this guy.
You remember it as the cartoon.
Well, but not the cartoon. I mean, yes, the cartoon, but not like the recurring 30-minute episode that was actually, 19 minutes of content or whatever. Yeah. No, that's not Garfield Christmas. Oh.
Garfield Christmas. So I remember as a kid, we would, or at least I did, I was like to kind of draw stuff, and Odie and Garfield were two easy ones to draw. You know, they weren't the hardest cartoon characters to work with, so I always drew Odie and Garfield, and I loved the comic strip a little bit. I wasn't huge on the comic strip, but when the actual it came out on Saturdays where you're watching that, alongside everything else, that was great, man. I loved it.
Garfield made friends with the crusty old grandma. Garfield, he climbed up the Christmas tree to put the star on the top of it. Even though he didn't really like Odie deep down, Odie loved him, and when Odie snuck out in the snow to get the tools out of the shed, he got the little 3-prong ground breaker upper. What do you call that for? Like
the mantis?
Is that what you call that, a mantis?
Yeah, well, that's what that's the name brand one that I have.
Okay, well, we'll go with that. So he got the mantis and unscrewed the handle from the plunger and put it into a board, and then wrapped it, a little leather strap. He made Garfield his own back scratcher. Yeah. Man, you want to talk about a Christmas story? That is it right there.
Sounds like around my house every day with 2 dogs and 2 cats. I love the orange cat. I guess I'm partial to an orange tabby because of Garfield.
Yeah,
I got 2 orange tabbies, and I have 1 butterscotch that he looks like Garfield. And
Garfield may be the only cat I've ever liked.
I love him, man. They're so much fun. I mean, watching the dog, Odie, my dog, Hawk, and just the harassment and the love that the cat actually has, both of them, but not really. They kind of love you, kind of not. But then when it comes time to go to bed, they'll curl up in there with them. But, yeah, it's just comedy all the time. And I guess.
What was the music for that? Dad would chop down the tree. Mom would fix a big meal. Doc Boy would get in the way. Hell yes.
You got the music, man.
Yes, sir.
It brings back good memories, though. Saturdays.
The Mississippi Gaming Commission says our laws are clear. According to a release by the commission, letters were issued electronically and by mail. You know it's serious when you get an email and a letter. To companies operating sports wagering and online casinos illicitly in Mississippi. The online wagering offered by these sports books and gaming sites is illegal here in the great state of. As wagers may only be offered and only be accepted on the premises of brick-and-mortar casinos. We cannot have this responsibility on our phones. And how dare you think you should? And how dare these companies think that they should operate in the great state of Mississippi? It shan't happen. The Senate has said no. And for you to try to work around it, there shall be severe consequences. Gaming Commission Executive Director Jay McDaniel says our laws are clear that casino-style gaming and sports wagering are not allowed online in Mississippi outside of a licensed casino. You go to a casino, we welcome you to the sportsbook, friends. We will take your bets. We will take your money. You will have a chance to win. Privacy of owning your own home? Damn you to hell, people. You shall not do it. Entities found to be operating in violation of state law include BetWhale.ag, BetUS.com, BetOnline.ag, MyBookie.ag, Bovada.lv, America's Cardroom.eu, IgnitionCasino.eu, LosAtlantis.com, SlotsAndCasino.ag, ChumbaCasino.com. But Richard, you don't understand. These brick and mortar properties have invested so much money in the state that would not be fair to them. Newsflash. Here, I'm going to whisper. I don't want to say it out loud. People will still go to casinos even if you can bet at home on your phone. Is it loud enough for you to hear but not loud enough to anger somebody that's invested? The commission also urges citizens to avoid engaging with any online site that offers gambling opportunities, as the player could be subject to criminal prosecution and loss of money deposited into illegal outlets. This update comes after a third straight year of lawmakers in the state's House of Representatives saying, yep, let's legalize it, before they fell just short in the Senate. Thank you, Senate, for being all of our moral compass. The state of Mississippi and the second largest company in the world, tech behemoth NVIDIA, have signed a memorandum of understanding to push artificial intelligence integration into the Magnolia State. Partnership, as detailed by Governor Reeves during a press conference yesterday, will expand AI education, promote research efforts, enhance workforce development, and drive economic development. Wednesday's announcement follows recent launches of AI-based initiatives by the state, including a talent accelerator program for higher ed, and an executive order from Reeves centered around moving artificial intelligence technology forward. NVIDIA, currently valued at more than $3.5 trillion, is one of the world's leaders in graphics chips and array of artificial intelligence products. State of Mississippi really leaning into artificial intelligence. You know who was ahead of the curve on this? I say this because I heard him say it and talk about it and talked about it on the radio over and over. Hugh Mina at C-Spire. Man, 10 years ago, he was discussing, and I realize that AI has been around a long, long time before that, but in terms of a mass adoption, companies understanding what artificial intelligence can do for them and using it broadly, C-Spire was one of the leaders. You mean he had that ability, has that ability to kind of look into the crystal ball and see what's coming down the line. We got more coming up with you. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. Back after this.
From the Seabird Paint.
Pour yourself a cup of coffee and get the Magnolia State's most important news of the day. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Forget about me. Don't you forget about me. As you walk on by, well, you come running.
I feel like we should go back to this. Wallace grew up in Baltimore. Her father died shortly after her birth, and she and her widowed mother were partly supported by their wealthier relatives. Her first marriage to United States Navy officer Win Spencer was punctuated by periods of separation and eventually ended in divorce. In 1931, while married to her second husband, Ernest Simpson, she met Edward, the Prince of Wales. 5 years later, after Edward's ascension as King of the United Kingdom, Wallace divorced Ernest to marry Edward. King's desire to marry a woman who had two living ex-husbands threatened to cause a constitutional crisis in the United Kingdom and the Dominions, ultimately leading to his abdication in December of 1936 to marry, quote, the woman I love, close quote. After abdicating, Edward was made the Duke of Windsor by his brother and his successor, George VI. Wallace married Edward 6 months later, after which she was formerly known as the Duchess of Windsor, but was not allowed to share her husband's style of royal highness.
Neither was
unquote.
Yeah, Franz Ferdinand had the same issue. His wife Sophia, his uncle Franz Joseph prohibited him from marrying the wife that he wanted, and she was not of noble birth. And so they did get married, and eventually, as we know, Franz Ferdinand was going to be the Archduke. His relatives were dropping like flies, so he became the dude in the spot, and eventually was able to kind of talk Franz Joseph into at least letting her travel around with him. But as Edward says, I have found it impossible to carry the heavy burden of responsibility and to discharge my duties as king as I would wish to do so without the help and support of the woman I love.
Yeah.
Sounds almost exactly like what Franz Ferdinand said about his wife, or the one he wanted to be his wife. What is it with these
and what Harry
these
said
nobles?
about Meghan. She was.
I want
she
my
was,
privacy. Give me my privacy.
Privacy, please. Privacy.
Where's my privacy?
So 11 years on the first go round, 9 years on number 2, and then look, hey, I mean, good for them. They were married 35 years before Big Cat died.
He didn't really want to be king anyway.
Yeah, it was kind of like the opposite of Simba, right? Like Simba just couldn't wait to be king.
Yeah, this dude he's kind of happy with the
he's like,
titles and the money.
Don't want to be king.
Just don't want to be king. Yeah, I think that was more of his thing.
There's deep cuts this morning.
Yep. That was good stuff, though.
We'll get to these other news stories a little bit later because we got to talk about the Arkansas Razorbacks' utter collapse last night in Omaha, NE. Wow. A good ball game, low-scoring ball game. You have, should we fast forward or like just to the end?
I mean, it was back and forth, I mean, it was. Yeah, it was a good ball game until it wasn't for Arkansas.
It fell apart for Arkansas in the bottom of the ninth inning after taking the lead in the top of the ninth, after having the lead in the top of the eighth and giving it up. I mean, it was back and forth and back and forth. Low-scoring game. All the action was in the last 3 innings, right? I mean, other than a home run early. So let's do it this way. Arkansas scores first. They lead 1-0. And they did so with a home run from their catcher, Helfrich.
He's been on fire, too.
Man, he's had a good series. LSU takes the lead in the bottom of the 6th inning, 2-1. And then in the top of the 8th inning, Arkansas gets 2. And it was a weird play. LSU was trying to turn a double play. And the throw from the second baseman, Dickinson, was low. And old Bear Jones over at first base, it was like he got caught in between trying to figure out whether he was supposed to catch it in the air or he was going to pick it on a hop. And he just missed it. And Vahiba Aloy, a super talented baseball player, with the help of his third base coach, never stopped running. 2 outs in the inning, trying to turn a double play to end the inning. 1 run comes home to score. He never stops running. Ball gets away at first base. Not far, but got away. He scores. Arkansas in front, 3-2. Is that going to be it? Nope. Because as Henry Ernest Thayer wrote in Casey's Revenge, sometimes you get another chance. So the guy that couldn't catch a ball at first base, Bear Jones, comes up. What did he do? Solo shot the opposite way. Deep fly, 3-3. So then what happens? We go to the top of the 9th inning. And Arkansas, things not looking good for the Razorbacks in a 3-3 game, although they still got a chance, but LSU's going to get their turn. Arkansas gets a ground out, then a single, then a double, so got second and third with just 1 out.
And you had the freshman on the mound too, right? The lefty little freshman.
Myers for LSU pitching?
No, I'm thinking of Arkansas.
That's in the bottom of the ninth.
Yeah, bottom, my bad.
So then they get a 2-run single to make it 5-3. Just pretty straightforward stuff. 3 straight hits. They knock Shores out of the game.
That was hard to believe, too. I mean, he came in with 101, hammering sliders. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you couldn't touch that. And all of a sudden, he was hittable.
Yeah. So we go to the bottom of the ninth. Pinch hitter, strikeout, 1 away. Infield single, 2-run lead, no big deal. Oh, wait, he got the second on a throwing error, tying run coming to the plate. Walk. Winning run coming to the plate. Stephen Monster Milam, who has had a flair for the big moment for LSU. What does he do? He hits a room service big hop to shortstop. Vahiva Aloy, the National Player of the Year, all he's got to do is flip to second for one, relay to first, ball game. We'll see you tomorrow night. What does he do?
Get the lead runner.
Opens his hips and throws it to third to get the lead runner. 2 down in the inning. But wait, it could have been game over. What are you doing? It's all right. Still a 2-run lead. Got to force it every bag. By the way, even if you go to second and you don't get the double play, you got the same result.
You still
That run
get a
at
double
third
play
doesn't
in order.
matter.
Yeah,
and you still got the double play opportunity. Yeah, just brain.
Yep.
So, catcher comes up for LSU, Hernandez. What does he do? He hits a top spin line drive right at the left fielder, who breaks back. It happens. And then he's like, ooh, no, don't go backwards. Got to go forwards. And he looks like the Roadrunner when he tries to get going. He kind of like stirs up a little cloud of dust. His feet get going real fast, except he doesn't go anywhere. And he didn't have time to get the meat going and start moving. And I watched the replay like 7 times to see if the ball actually hit his head.
I thought it might have. I think it was a shoulder area.
I think it was his shoulder.
But it looked like he wore it almost.
He just missed it. And that thing hit his shoulder in a way that it kicked 100 feet away from him. Into the corner. 2-run score easily. Double for Hernandez. All right, take a deep breath, Arkansas. Still tied. All it is your season hanging in the balance. You've never had anything bad happen at Omaha before. It's all right.
Yeah.
So Bear Jones comes up once again. Surely he's not going to hit a walk-off home run. Surely not. In fact, there was a debate on the broadcast. Hey, do you just walk, big boy? He's kind of had a flair for the dramatic. He's got 18 go-ahead home runs.
Out of 22 or one. Yeah.
In his career.
Yeah.
In his career.
Okay, yeah.
18 times he's hit a go-ahead home run. Should we just not pitch to him? We got first base open. His run doesn't matter. No, pitch to him. Slider away, spits on it. Pretty good slider, swing and a miss. Slider away, spits on it. Slider up over the heart of the plate. Rips it to second base. Second baseman got to try to climb the ladder and rob one and send it to extra innings. What does he do? Has it hit off his glove, trickle out into center field. Ball game over. Tigers win. Tigers win.
Well, you know the story there being the at some point in that game you're the goat. You're what everybody's going to blame the scapegoat, and that was Jared Jones, Bear, missing that ball at first. But
then he becomes the hero.
Then he's the hero. Exactly. That's baseball.
Sports has redemptive opportunities on the regular. Look, I mean, Davalon, the left fielder, is the one that was just inconsolable. Tears on top of tears on top of tears. All his teammates were there. Were there. I'm sorry, I just got distracted by the "I'd rather hear news in the morning." It's one segment.
It was a pretty big game, man.
In the history of the world, it is one. Every show going back for 35 years. Prior to me, one segment in the 6 o'clock hour. And it was kind of a big deal. And it was kind of entertaining.
And it was SEC teams, yeah.
So, you've got LSU and the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers. Final begins on Saturday. Best of 3 series. Wipe the slate clean. Chants riding a 26-game winning streak. That's your sports update brought to you by Pearl River Resort. Visit them online at pearlriverresort.com. Sports is news, too. Get your head out of your hiney. We're back right after this.
From the Venable Glass Traffic.
Shaping Mississippi politics each morning. Mornings with Richard Cross. Super Talk, Mississippi.
Richard Cross. Come from the sports news and the headlines. Leave with your feathers ruffled. That appears to be what we're doing this morning. That's all right. Thanks for joining us. C-Spire text line is open, 601-879-4395. Every sports fan can tell you fast speeds win games. That's why C-Spire brings your fiber home internet into your house. Nationwide 5G wireless IT solutions that move as fast as your business. Learn more, cspire.com. C-Spire, inspired by you. No jackpot winner for Lotto America. Estimated jackpot for Saturday, $2.25 million. The estimated cash value is now over 7 figures, $1.01 million. Wednesday night's numbers, 11, 18, 25, 29, 32. The Star Ball, 9. The All-Star bonus multiplier, 3. No jackpot winner with Powerball last night. Jackpot up to $118 million for Saturday. Cash value 53.4. Last night's numbers 23, 29, 50, 64, 67. Ugh. Powerball of 11. Power play multiplier 2.
Well, the double play numbers from Wednesday, June 18th, 13, 15, 17, 36, 66, Powerball of 10. And we have that Mega Millions jackpot drawing tomorrow, Friday, June the 20th, up to $302 million. And the estimated cash value on that, $136 million. Numbers from Tuesday, 16, 23, 39, 46, 55, Mega Ball of 12.
I'm sorry. I'm reading and smiling and laughing. No, I'm not stewing. I'm not stewing.
Stewing can be a good thing, you know.
You know, the funny thing about, I thought that was one of our better sports segments. We humanized it, we dramatized it, we hit the high points.
And
the thrill of victory, the agony of defeat, the tears of flannel, all that good stuff rolled into one.
I thought it was excellent, man, honestly. So, yeah.
Mississippi Match 5, no jackpot winner. Estimated jackpot tonight, $110,000. I got a text from a buddy. He's like, I genuinely felt sorry for them last night. Did you?
I don't have
feel bad for
sentiment.
DVH. It's a great program.
Yeah,
exceptionally run program.
Always a big fan of them, of Arkansas and the way they run their program.
And I have some dear friends that are Arkansas fans that I think the world of. But the collective look down its nose at the state of Mississippi from Arkansas fans writ large is so misplaced. So freaking misplaced. They can't beat Ole Miss or Mississippi State in anything.
Yeah, I have a long history back in the day with Arkansas, so no love lost there watching them lose that game. But at the end of the day, I'm just not very sentimental with that stuff. You know, the team that won it, the team that lost it, and yeah, there's going to be heartbreak and heartache.
Sentimental guy.
When you play it stuff enough, you know, you're going to lose some. I remember losing some tough ones, so just kind of got to pack it up and get out of there and do it again.
Sizzling Summer Cash bonus promo. Results are in from the drawing that was held yesterday. Greenville, Mississippi, $15,000 winner. Reform, Alabama, $10,000 winner. $5,000 headed to Starkville. $500 for winners in Okolona, Sunflower, Waveland, Myrtle, and Morton. But don't sweat it. Don't sweat it if you didn't win this time, because the Sizzling Summer bonus drawing is coming up again on Wednesday, July 2nd. Same cash prizes up for grabs. Enter your non-winning Hot Games tickets. $2 Heat Stroke, $5 Blazing Hot Bucks, $10 Red Cash by 11:59 on Sunday, June 29th for your next shot at Sizzling Summer Cash. A couple other people that won. Lance and Gaucher, man, $3,100 on a ticket from Ramey's in Gaucher. Pretty good one.
Yeah.
How about Macomb? I'll let you do that.
That's the big daddy
one,
there.
Buddy. You do that one.
Big daddy, yeah. The $3 15-time crossword winner, a Macomb man. He brought home the bacon, man. $40,000 on a ticket from Breakpoint Marathon in Macomb, Mississippi. So congratulations to the big winner there.
Amanda in Pike County knows, but are we happy for the Tigers? I don't. Whatever.
Yeah. I mean, better team won
LSU
that
baseball
night.
is what LSU baseball is. And if they win another one, it changes nothing.
Yeah.
When you've won 7, what difference is another one? Whatever.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, I have to say that the story with Jared Jones is a good one too, because he struggled so bad over the last couple of weeks. Jay Johnson,
he struck out five times in a game 5 days ago.
So Jay Johnson pulls him aside and does a little work, and they gets him back on the horse. And this is what coaching looks like when you actually make a difference. And I love that.
Cash-tastic winner. Scratch-off Starkville woman, $2,500 on a ticket from Sprint Mart at Aberdeen. Hattiesburg woman got $2,500 on a $5 scratch-off Gold Rush. You can win as well. All you got to do is buy your tickets at your local lottery provider. Don't sweat it, Richard. I'm not sweating it, Ed. Appreciate the money. The message. If you want to send money, feel free. I got bad news for our friend on the text line, though. The C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. Our friends at Pearl River Resort have made sure that the sports segment is not going anywhere. They bring it to you every single morning. PearlRiverResort.com. There was another one. Richard, would you... Everybody having fun this morning. Anand Samy going to join us in the 7 o'clock hour. Looking forward to his perspective on what's going on in the Middle East. Ashley Thompson, CEO of True Care, coming up in the 8 o'clock hour. This is Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on this show are not the opinions of TeleSouth Communications, its management, or advertisers.
Mornings with Richard Cross, here on Super Talk, Mississippi.
What else?
And always on the Super Talk app.
Welcome back, 7 o'clock hour. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. A lot of energy this morning, and we got a lot to get to. This hour of the show brought to you by MWG Employer Services. Running a business is tough, and if you're struggling with HR, benefits, and payroll, you're not alone. That's where MWG Employer Services comes in. They can provide a full range of employer services, plus a custom plan that fits you. Call them today, 601-206-7966, or go to MWGEmployerServices.com. That's MWGEmployerServices.com. Coming up in our next segment, Anand Samy, host of America's Roundtable and co-founder of the International Leaders Summit, will join us. We will talk with him about the latest on what's going on in Iran and Israel. We have reached the point where if Israel tells you, hey, you better get out of a site, you better get out of a site. Israel's military warned people on Thursday, which was, hours and hours ago, that they better get out of the area around Iran's Arak, ARAK, heavy water reactor. The warning came via a social media post and included a satellite image of the plant in a red circle in the same way that other warnings have preceded previous strikes. Israel is doing what they can to minimize civilian injury and casualty. They're telling you, this is what's coming, you better get out of the way. And what did they do? They followed up with an airstrike on the Arak heavy water reactor. Israel's seventh day of airstrikes on Iran came a day after Iran's supreme leader, the Ayatollah, rejected United States calls for surrender, unconditional surrender, the term that Donald Trump had used. And they warned that any military involvement by the Americans would cause irreparable damage to them. Israel also lifted some restrictions on daily life, suggesting that the missile threat from Iran on its territory was easing. That may have been premature on Israel's part. The Israeli military said Thursday's rounds of airstrike targeted Tehran and other areas of Iran without elaborating. Israel's campaign has targeted Iran's enrichment site at Natanz, centrifuge workshops around Tehran, and a nuclear site in Isfahan. Strikes have also killed top generals and nuclear scientists. A Washington-based Iranian human rights group said that 639 Iranians, including 263 civilians, have been killed in Iran, and more than 1,300 have been wounded. In retaliation, Iran has fired some 400 missiles and hundreds of drones, killing at least 24 in Israel and wounding hundreds. Some have hit apartment buildings in central Israel, causing heavy damage. And most recently, a rocket from Iran hit a hospital in Beersheba. Significant damage there. We have gotten now details of the initial strike that Israel used with Iran. And they kind of make the hair on the back of your neck stand up. I actually think we've got to go back a little bit and look at the larger, like, if this is a chessboard and this is a chess match between Iran and Israel, Israel's got a bunch of pieces still on the board. Iran's only got a few. Now, they're making some moves with the few that they've got left, but their defeat is imminent. I've never been a chess player. I guess I learned how to play, but I never really learned how to play. I know what all the pieces do, all the directions they go, but in terms of chess strategy, I was never there. But there is legitimate strategy to winning at a high level in chess, and you're thinking multiple moves ahead. So if we rewind, not necessarily to October 7th, but if we go a little forward from that, October 7th is what provided the opening for Israel to really go after Iran. Iran has been saying death to Israel, and they've been the largest state sponsor of terror in the world for a really long time. They had less ability to do that when pretty severe sanctions were in place, but we know that Obama and Biden kind of opened the door for Iran to rebuild its war chest in terms of both money and weapons. And so you think about Israel's long-term play was we're going after Iran. But while the Iranian Revolutionary Guard is not the most formidable military in the world, we do know that their proxies have been very, very effective in targeted terrorist strikes. Hamas, the Houthis, Hezbollah. And so Israel's larger strategy in this big chess game was, okay, we're going to eventually go after Iran. We need to weaken them as much as we can between now and that point. So what did they do? They went after the proxies, Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthis individually back in the fall and moving into the winter, and they significantly reduced the ability for the proxies to inflict pain. Now moving forward to the attack on Iran, according to a report published by the Jewish Chronicle, Mossad, that's the Israeli intelligence source, used Iranian communication channels as part of a coordinated disinformation campaign targeting top Iranian Air Force officials and luring them all to the same location for what they believe to be an important meeting. So, Lance, they breached the communication service and used a phone. Amit Segal detailed this on his Call Me Back podcast on Monday. He said what Israel did was create a fake phone call for 20 members of the Air Force senior staff, calling them to a specific bunker in Tehran. That meant there was no one to give the order to fire the initial salvo of 1,000 ballistic missiles, as Iran had previously threatened to do. The added bonus for the Israelis was that Iranian military leadership was essentially crippled from the moment of the first strike against the world's top sponsor of terrorism. Mossad had used falsified communications through Iranian channels to call the meeting, which successfully lured the entire senior leadership of the Revolutionary Guard Corps Aerospace Force, the Iranian Air Force, including Commander General Amir Ali Hajizadeh, his deputies, and key technical personnel into a fortified bunker, and then that bunker was hit with a precision airstrike, eliminating the top missile command. and all of its leaders. This is the pagers 2.0.
It's just ratcheting up, though. Bigger ballistics being fired, getting through the Iron Dome a little.
By the way, the top military guy for the Revolutionary Guard that had been put in place 4 days ago, he was eliminated a couple of days ago as well.
Their precision in getting rid of the leadership is second to none.
Yeah,
it really is.
We got a report yesterday that Iran wanted to speak with the United States, which is interesting because they had plenty of opportunity in that 60-day window that the United States allowed for them. Donald Trump responding to the idea that Iran wants to meet and discuss a deal at the White House.
Look, they should have made the deal. I had a great deal for them. They should have made that deal. 60 days we talked about it, and in the end they decided not to do it, and now they wish they did it. And they want to meet. But it's a little late to meet, but they want to meet, and they want to come to the White House. They'll even come to the White House. So we'll see. I may do that, but it's a shame it could have been done the easy way.
Could have been done the easy way.
Yeah, well, Iran's over there talking about wiping Israel off the face of the earth with their hypersonic glide missiles, and it's a crazy time over there. That's for sure.
Yeah. C-Spire text line 601-879-4395. CC says Iran is nuts. They're just like, go ahead and blow us up, see if we care. I mean, it does feel a little like that. We had one pro-Iran text yesterday that said we were, let's see, I gotta edit the way that it was phrased, but basically that we were propping up Israel on this radio program.
Well, the recent problem was by the Iranian militants that were proxies, flying go-karts over and killing a bunch of innocent people. So, yeah, I mean, if that's propping Israel up by telling the truth about the recent conflict, then I guess that's see it how you want to.
We've kind of reported what's going on, but if you said, "Hey, Richard, are you for Israel or are you for Iran?" Yeah, I'm pulling for Israel in this.
Yeah, come on.
I am. Yeah. I am not pulling for the country that
says death to America.
Says death to America.
Yeah.
Well said. Joel Anand Samy joins us next. We'll talk with him about American assistance to Israel, what that looks like right now, what perhaps it should look like. We got more coming up with you. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
From the Venable Glass Traffic.
Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Mornings with Richard Cross rolling on with you in this 7 o'clock hour on today, the 19th of June, a Thursday morning. Always enjoy our conversations with Joel Anand Samy. He joins us right now from Washington, D.C. Joel, good morning to you.
A very good morning to you, Richard and Lance, and the great team at SuperTalk Mississippi Media, and also a great morning to the wonderful, engaged listeners on SuperTalk.
Always a pleasure to visit. Joel is host of America's Roundtable, the radio program. You hear it right here on SuperTalk Mississippi, and co-founder of the International Leaders Summit. Joel, I described in our last segment a chess game. And I'm neither smart enough nor talented enough to be a good chess player, and never understood the strategy. But it feels to me like Israel is playing chess and Iran is playing, I don't know if it's checkers or they think they're playing a poker game or what. But the strategy behind the way that Israel has gone about this series of attacks against the Iranians is, from a military perspective, really remarkable.
Yes, indeed, Richard. In fact, if I may take a step back and just to provide context to what we're experiencing today, I'm inclined to suggest that President Trump and Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu are firmly on the side of freedom and security, and they are affirming the policy of peace through strength. And indeed, we cannot shy away from the great existential threat that Iran represents today. It is a nuclear-armed Iran that we're concerned about, and it's a threat to America and the rule of law civilization. But as we've known over the past decades, remember when Iraq actually was working to develop a nuclear bomb? We actually saw Israel take it out. And as we are at this 11th hour, what Israel is doing is not just only protecting the people of Israel, it is on the front lines protecting the rule of law civilization, including the United States of America. And you are right. While Iran is playing a game of checkers, Israel is certainly implementing its military prowess in a way that is unimaginable. It's just amazing what they're doing.
So the intelligence reports have told us that Iran was really, really close in terms of weapons-grade enrichment for nuclear bombs. We get a message, and there's some people that have pushed back on this a little bit that says they are not nuclear-armed, and while that may be factually accurate, it feels as if they were closer than they have ever been. Do you buy into the intelligence reports that Mossad and others have put together that said, hey, they were just days away from having the ability? And have we seen enough from Iran to know that if they had gotten to the point where they had weapons-grade enrichment for nuclear warheads, that they would have used them? Or is that just not a gamble worth taking?
Well, I think that Israel has a better intelligence structure within Iran than most countries do. And secondly, the turning point was on June 12, 2025, when the Global Nuclear Watchdog's Board of Governors formally declared Iran in breach of its non-proliferation obligations for the first time in 20 years. And then 19 of the 35 countries of the International Atomic Energy voted for the motion, which was backed by the United States, the UK, France, and Germany. And this is important for us to realize. It stated that Iran's many failures to provide the IAEA with full answers about its undeclared nuclear material and activities constitutes non-compliance. So I think that was the real turning point for Israelis' leadership, as well as for the United States. This was that moment that we were all very concerned about. And then Prime Minister Netanyahu came forward and said, listen, if we don't do something now, we're going to face a nuclear-armed Iran. And that's not just a threat to the Middle East, it's a threat to the rule of law civilization and to the United States of America.
One of the things that we've talked about, and many others have as well, is if you've got an enemy who says, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to kill you, at some point you better believe them. And we have seen through the proxies, Iran killed lots and lots and lots of innocent people. We know that the geopolitical landscape of the Middle East is a complicated one. And the hatred for the Jewish state among many of the nations in that part of the world, Iran at the top of the list, is unparalleled. In fact, I don't know. I had somebody say this to me not too terribly long ago. It's hard for us to imagine waking up, getting out of bed every morning, and knowing that today could be the last because there's someone that hates me so much.
Indeed, Richard. It's hard for us to fathom this here in the Washington, D.C. area, or even in Mississippi, that each night, instead of going to your own bedroom and having a good night's rest, you actually have to rush down to a bunker and a bomb shelter and to protect your family. And that's what Israel has had to do. And even more so after October 7, 2023, and October 8, we saw Hezbollah sending in missiles into Israel. And then later on, we saw Iran attacking Israel. So for a country that knows what it is, during World War II, we realized, and the evidences are there, that 6 million Jews were exterminated, were killed, were murdered. And today, Iran is not just only warning the little Satan, Israel, but it's warning the great Satan, America. And we certainly need to take this to heart. And these threats are not just, thinly veiled threats. these are serious issues that we need to address as a rule of law civilization. And Iran is a terrorist state. It's a known state that has fueled terrorism in the region, but also when we think about the fact that they have fueled terrorism in the United States, and there have been, at least from what we gather, 2 legitimate attempts on the life of President Donald Trump, and that's emanating from Tehran.
Yeah, that was, I can't remember which interview. Maybe it was with ABC News or maybe it was with somebody. I think it was in the conversation that Netanyahu had with Bret Baier on Fox. And I don't know that it had been said as explicitly as Bibi Netanyahu said it in that conversation, where he said that the Iranians were behind the 2 presidential assassination attempts, both in Butler, Pennsylvania, and then on the golf course in Florida as well. Is that substantiated? Because it felt like that was breaking news and maybe the thing that should have stood out more than anything else from that particular interview.
Well, we know for a fact that Iran has been working to target America's leaders. In fact, Bibi Netanyahu is on the list, and others as well that have stood against the Iranian regime, Tehran. And for a fact, we've known that they have been working through proxies to be able to get as close as possible to President Trump and to assassinate President Trump. So, this is a terrorist entity. They're using all means possible to destabilize the West. And Iran is known not just for creating mischief in the Middle East, but when you think about what happened over in Europe over the past 2 decades, there have been numerous bombings and attempts being made. One just a couple of weeks ago, actually maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago, when the United Kingdom actually caught a group that was just about to go and bomb a synagogue. They were Iranians, actually, about to bomb a synagogue in London. So, we are dealing with a existential threat, but also a group that is targeting the Western leaders. And this must come to an end. We need to hold Iran to account. We are really actually standing at the precipice of history in a very important hour. And I believe that what President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu are doing is really standing on behalf of our free world. And once for all, we have an opportunity to put an end to Iran's ambitions to possess a nuclear weapon and to hold the world hostage.
Visiting with Joel Anand Samy. He is host of America's Roundtable. We've got a break coming up, and we'll talk a little bit more. One of the big issues that people are debating, and really 2 things that seem to be part of the larger conversation, and that is the role of the United States. Do they directly involve themselves with this, or does it remain indirect cooperation with Israel? That's one big topic. The other is about regime change, and there are some who have said a regime change is needed. There are others that have said, and Donald Trump himself basically has alluded to the fact that sometimes the enemy you know is better than the enemy you don't know. We will unpack those 2 topics when we come back. And then also, the rest of the Middle East does not seem to be coming to the aid of Iran. All of that coming up. Joel Anand Samy is my guest. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. We've got more with you on the other side of this quick timeout.
From the Seabird.
Of Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
From Sumner to Summit to Summerall, Richard has something for you. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
But what can you do? I don't know how I'm meant to act with all of you lot. Sometimes I don't try.
Thanks for being with us on this Thursday morning, the 19th of June. Joel Anand Samy is my guest. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. And Joel, I outlined three big topics I wanted us to hit before the break. Let's start with American involvement. Polling numbers show that the United States is largely supportive of Israel and against Iran in this. But some of the same polling shows that the United States people, the citizens here, don't necessarily want direct U.S. involvement. Congress is in the process of acting to make sure that the president knows that they are the ones who have the ability to declare war. The president cannot do that unilaterally. So in terms of American involvement, does it suffice for the United States to be supportive of Israel? And support that could go so far as lending the B-2 stealth bomber and that 30,000-pound bunker buster bomb that could ultimately shut down the Frodau site, or does it need to be less specific than that?
Well, Richard, it's so important to understand the significant role that President Trump is playing as commander-in-chief of the United States of America. And first, protecting American citizens, protecting America. And President Trump, as we've known him over not just only this time around, but the first term, he has been an individual that has been relentless in pursuing peace. We've seen that through the Abraham Accords, where he brought Bahrain, UAE, Morocco, Sudan together. And also his first international trip was to the Gulf states, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and also to the UAE. So he has the best of intentions to protecting America, to safeguarding America's interests. And so when we think about America's interest in the Middle East, it's not just only Israel. It's our ties with the Middle East nations like Saudi Arabia, UAE, Bahrain, and other countries as well. And President Trump gave Iran over 60 days to enter into a deal in good faith, but they basically thwarted that attempt. They ridiculed it in messages being sent back by saying, first you have to disarm Israel before we sit down at the table. Now, that's not a way to really negotiate. And as we look at this very important time in history, President Trump realizes the importance of once and for all, this all to an end. We also have to keep in mind that in the 1980s, President Reagan wiped out nearly half of Iran's navy. And that was in the 1980s. So Iran has always been not just a thorn in the side of the West, but certainly trying to create instability, making us spend more money on defense, rather than creating opportunities and economic opportunities for our citizens. So President Trump, I think, is weighing what he needs to do. But I think also Israel has other options. And, we've been in touch with various key leaders in Israel and those that are part of the intelligence structure there, and just getting feedback as to what their next steps are if President Donald Trump decides not to participate. But we do have the capability of taking out Fordo, and that is a key site that needs to be destroyed.
There have been people that have asked the question about Fordo. Is there a way to shut that down without the use of the stealth bomber and that MOP, the big boy, the bunker buster bomb? Can Israel do enough damage in its kind of surgical strikes against Iran that they could then send ground forces in to actually go in and dismantle that facility, as opposed to the United States having to loan or allow the use of that bunker buster?
I think ideally it would be great if America was able to send out its stealth bombers and also the GBU-57AB massive ordnance penetrator, which you've said, MOP, which weighs 30,000 pounds and can take out Fordo right away. On the other side, if America decides not to get involved, I would say that, Israel really has the right to move forward and to be able to destroy this. I'd like to share a statement from a very good friend of ours. He was the former editor-in-chief of the Jerusalem Post. I'd like to quote his words. He said, and this is Yaakov Katz. Yaakov Katz stated, Israeli officials have said clearly, this campaign does not end without addressing Fordo. And while U.S. involvement remains a factor, Israel is not relying solely on Washington. The ingenuity and reach Israel has already shown in this operation deep inside Iranian territory suggests that it has its own contingency plans, whether by air, cyber, or other means. Bottom line, Israel has options, unquote. And I think that sort of brings to the head exactly what Israel is facing today. They will go in with or without America. And I think it would be great if America would be able to assist in this operation by once and for all getting rid of Fordo.
The thing that's so interesting to me about this is I think much of the hesitation from Americans about the United States getting involved in this is we have seen the cost and the expense and the lack of result of this nation building that comes on the backside of involvement, whether you're talking about Iraq or Afghanistan. It seems like a never-ending cycle where you're really not welcome and you spend billions, if not trillions of dollars, and to what end? We certainly don't want that to be the case in Iran for the Iranian people. That's a reasonable concern, isn't it?
Absolutely, Richard. And we certainly understand that. As an American citizen, we have seen, and all of us have seen the tremendous toil of sending our young men and women to Afghanistan, to Iraq. And, when we look at what the results have been, they have not been stellar by any result.
Right.
I mean, it's just unfortunate. But on the other side, if we allow a nuclear-armed Iran, then we will be a hostage to a terrorist state. And that is also a serious concern. But at the same time, as we, look at and weigh in our options, we can certainly see that Israel is doing most of the heavy lifting. And I don't think that we will need an American boots on the ground scenario to really address the issues of Fordo or to be involved in regime change. I think the people of Iran are very, very upset. There is greater, I think eyes are on the people of Iran. They are really frustrated with what's happening. And this may be that opportunity for the Iranian people to rise up. And just in late April, I spent time with the Crown Prince of Iran, who is now in the United States, residing in the U.S. We had a lengthy conversation. And his message has been clear. It's for the Iranian people to be part of that regime change. The future belongs to the Iranian people. We cannot make the decision for them.
Well, and that's interesting because I was going to ask you about regime change. There have been American leaders, Lindsey Graham chief among them, who are saying that, hey, regime change is what we need in Iran. Donald Trump has been less forthright in that. And I mentioned it before the break, the whole enemy you know versus the enemy that you don't know. What is the best scenario, or is what you said the answer to that question? That is a question and an issue for the Iranian people, not for the United States to decide.
Right. I would say it's not for the United States to decide on the issue of a regime change. That is for the people of Iran. And in fact, the people of Iran, if you look at various polls, they're not against America. It's Tehran, the regime, the Ayatollah that has this vendetta, this focused fixation to destroy America. The Iranian people, by and large, are really wanting to have greater economic opportunities for themselves, for their children. They want a bright future because they see what's happening across the Gulf, across the sea there. They see what's happening in UAE, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, where there's prosperity, there's trade, there's economic opportunity. They want that for Iran. And I think this may be that opportunity that we see in history where the Iranian people rise up. And if we in the West, that is America, Israel, European countries, are able to weaken Iran to the point that it allows the Iranian people to rise up, I think at the end of the day, that may be the best case scenario. And we have leaders like the Crown Prince and others that may step in to provide that transition that Iran will need provide law and order and a transition to a democratic Iran.
Last thing for you, Joel. We've only got a little less than a minute left, and I always appreciate your time. It does not appear that Iran has much support within the Middle East, and maybe even some of the other countries that you would expect to come to their defense, like Russia or China or others. Are they sitting on an island all by themselves right now?
Absolutely. Iran is not just only cordoned, it is isolated. And Tehran feels that. In fact, we have been seeing reports where people within the structure of the Iranian government are looking at ways to getting out of Iran, trying to get their families out.
Sure.
They know, I think, that this may be that last chapter in this very sordid history of the Iranian terror regime.
Joel, I always appreciate your time, and I appreciate the conversation and your insight. Great visiting, and look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you, Richard. Appreciate that.
Joel Anand Samy, host of America's Roundtable. We've got a timeout. We'll wrap up the 7 o'clock hour with you next. It's Mornings with Richard Cross.
From the Venable Glass Traffic Center.
Morning, partner. The sun is up, the coffee is on, and you're starting your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross, here on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Hey, lady, got the love I need. Baby, more than enough. Oh, darling, 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 walk a while with me. Oh, you got so much, so much.
If you're in the market for a new or previously owned vehicle, then Belk Ford and Oxford Toyota very well could be the place for you, but you don't have to take my word for it. At some point, I'm going to have to send John in Houston a T-shirt to say thank you for the endorsement. We've told you John's story. He was coming in from Houston to visit his son in Oxford. He was bringing him a vehicle. It was time for him to get a new vehicle, and he reached out to my friends at Belk and was like, hey, kind of looking for this. Can you help me out? And they were like, yeah, when do you need it? John came to Oxford from Houston, Texas, let the sales team at Belk Ford take care of him, went home with a brand new Ford F-150 Raptor. Lance, he sent us a picture of it yesterday.
Oh, it looks amazing, doesn't it?
Fine-looking truck.
Yeah.
Got that big motor in it. He said 9.5-hour drive, pouring down rain much of the way on the way home, and it was all good in that beast of a vehicle, he said. Congratulations to John on the new ride. And look, if John can vouch for them all the way from Houston, Texas, doesn't it make sense if you live much closer than Houston to at least talk to the folks at Belk Ford? Whatever it is that you're looking for, whether it's a Ford or Toyota vehicle, they will help you out. If they don't have it on the lot, they'll do their best to get it. And then, from the business side of it, if you need financing for the purchase of your vehicle, like most of us do, then they will get you the best financing rates that you're going to find anywhere. They'll have options for you. It's a good sales team. They're not pushy. They're going to help you get in the vehicle that you want at a price that you can afford. And I think you'll be really, really happy. And they're not going anywhere. The Belk family has been in the automobile business for over 100 years. They're located on Highway 6 West in Oxford, whether it's a new Ford, a previously owned vehicle, or a new Toyota. They got you covered. Belk Ford, Oxford Toyota. There's a better way at Belk.
Two things here. They've been around since just about the Model T, so
give or take.
They know what they're doing.
That's right.
And two, if you want the cross package, you got to ask for it explicitly. Whatever the anti-rain, sunshine all the time. That's the plan you want. It is called the cross package. Make sure you ask for that.
There you go. They John, for example, said, "Hey, I want to check him out," and I reached out to part of the sales team at Belk. I was like, "Hey, this guy's coming to look, and will you take care of him?" And they certainly did. But you don't have to have the cross package or the cross endorsement. They'll take care of you regardless. There was a long post on X, and sometimes when you get a long post, you see somebody respond TLDR. TLDR means too long, didn't read. And the new thing is for people, they'll ask Grok to summarize a long post. This was from Victor Davis Hanson. He's a senior fellow at the Hoover Institute. And he went to great lengths to describe kind of the foreign policy of Donald Trump. Because you have presidents who very much fall into the isolation category. They are isolationists. You have presidents who fall into the globalism category. They're globalists, where they want to make the world just one big neighborhood where everybody lives in harmony. Kind of hard to do that given the different viewpoints of the world. But Victor Davis Hanson described Donald Trump's foreign policy this way. He says he was and is clearly a populist nationalist. In other words, what is a cost to benefit analysis in the best interests of the United States at home and on its particular agendas abroad? He writes, Trump did not like neoconservatism because he never felt it was in our interest to spend blood and treasure on those who either did not deserve such largesse or who would never evolve in ways we thought they should, or whose fates were not central to our national interests. So-called optional bad deal and forever wars in the Middle East and their multi-trillion-dollar cost would ultimately come at the expense of shorting middle America back home. I thought that was a pretty powerful statement there. In terms of a summary of the post, he said, Trump is willing to talk to the Iranians, rarely insults their thuggish leaders, and wants to show that he always preferred exhausting negotiations to preemptive war. That patience allows him to say legitimately that force was his last choice as he sees all the alternatives waning. All of this confuses his allies, perhaps, though confounds more his enemies. In some, he believes, as far as enemies go, public predictability is dangerous, unpredictability, even volatility, being the safer course.
Yeah, and that goes echoes what I asked him yesterday. What he thought. He goes, "Yeah, I'll tell you. I like making decisions with 1 second to go, so I can see how everything unfolds."
Donald Trump is a complex person. Like there's a lot more than hair and spray tan with Donald Trump. His detractors disagree. They think he's an empty suit and he's dumb. His supporters sometimes overly deify him. But in terms of leadership, it's kind of hard to argue with some of the results.
No matter where you're from, Abbeville, Batesville, D'Iberville, or any other ville in the SIP, you're starting your day off right. Mornings with Richard Cross. Super Talk, Mississippi.
Eight o'clock hour. Welcome again. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi. Streaming at supertalk.fm, Supertalk TV. Available, of course, on your Super Talk Mississippi radio stations all across the Magnolia State. And if you can't catch it live, you can always grab Mornings on the go with you via a podcast so that you can listen at your convenience. Alongside Lance Tolbert, I'm Richard Cross. Glad to be with you. And glad to welcome in my next guest this morning. Ashley Thompson is CEO of True Care, and there's a new grant program in place that True Care is offering that seeks to have positive health benefits and impacts in underserved communities in the state of Mississippi. Ashley, good morning to you.
Good morning, Richard. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Let's start with True Care. I don't know that everybody knows exactly what True Care is, or Mississippi True more locally.
Absolutely. True Care is a managed care company that was founded by a collaborative of Mississippi hospitals and health systems with the intent to bid on the Mississippi Medicaid managed care contract that that RFQ took place in 2021, and we were awarded one of the spots in August of 2022, and then we will go live on 7/1 of this year. So we're very excited to bring this partnership to Mississippi. It's a unique opportunity where payer and provider have come together to improve health outcomes and affect change in Mississippi healthcare.
Well, we certainly know that one of the tenets in healthcare is that, if you live a healthier lifestyle, then you have less illness, you have less sickness, maybe you have fewer comorbidities. But getting people to follow through on that idea has historically been a difficult thing to do, especially in poorer parts of the state of Mississippi. Is that where this grant program really kind of places its focus?
Well, ultimately, what we want to do is we want to empower community organizations to be innovative and creative in their solutions for different problems that communities across the state of Mississippi face, be it a lack of affordable, healthy options, lack of grocery stores in an area, lack of transportation, whatever these needs are, because every community is unique and the needs of that community are unique. So we want to empower our CBOs to embrace initiative and creativity to fix a problem that they see in their communities.
So the grant program is called the Community Champions Grant. Give us some examples of what this may look like going forward.
Absolutely. Well, this is our inaugural Community Champions Grant program. We look forward to having this every year. It's an opportunity for community organizations across the state to be introduced to TrueCare, but also give us an idea of what these organizations are doing throughout Mississippi, how they're impacting change. And what we hope to do is we hope that we see creativity and innovation and solutions for problems in Mississippi. So maybe there's a group out there and they've had this great idea, but they haven't had a way to fund it. By applying for this grant, we're giving them the ability to fund these ideas to really impact Mississippians and their lives.
So correct me if I'm wrong on this, but it sounds like more than anything, this is about investing in the communities where the people you serve live and work and go to church and interact on a daily basis. Is that at least close to accurate?
Oh, absolutely. I'm not a transactional individual. My philosophy is to be transformational, and I want to work with community organizations across Mississippi, not to think of TrueCare as just an organization that'll write them a check, but that will work with them to impact change and to make a difference in the lives of Mississippians.
Visiting with Ashley Thompson. She is the CEO of TrueCare. Mississippi True is the brand that you will see across the state. They're the managed care provider for Medicaid starting on July 1st. Ashley, you're obviously no stranger to the healthcare community. I've talked with people who've been involved in grants in the past, whether they are federal dollars or state dollars, that we're focused on improving outcomes, whether it's in the Mississippi Delta or other parts of the state of Mississippi. And one of the things that they've run into along the way is that to some degree people have to want to help themselves, and you don't always get that cooperation. You don't always get individuals who are willing to engage in a lifestyle change or are willing to take advantage. How do you overcome that within the context of, okay, this grant is here, but we don't want this money to be just thrown down the drain either. We want it to actually create change and create the positive outcomes that you're looking for.
Well, ultimately, I think that no one knows the communities they serve better than the individuals in those communities. So our CBO organizations, they're able to identify problems and then work to find solutions for those problems. And Richard, you're right. It's hard to eat healthy. It's expensive to eat healthy. Sometimes I don't want to take a walk around my block. I want to sit on the couch and watch television. And, I think that we all experience those moments in life where we have to say, am I going to go this direction or that direction? And so, because we are provider-sponsored health plan, we are able to connect with members on a very on a very personal level with our hospitals. They've been in communities in this state, in some cases for 100 years. And so our hope is that through these partnerships and through these personal connections, that we're able to help Mississippians embrace a change in their own lifestyle. It will be hard. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
But as someone that I grew up in Bay Springs, Mississippi, and now live in the Madison area. So I truly understand, what it's like to come from a small town where you didn't have a ton of options, but also recognize the importance of, putting healthy options in front of your family, making a decision to just get a little bit of exercise here and there, but also working with community organizations to make sure individuals have access to those facilities, the food, and even possibly the transportation to get from point A to point B.
You know, when you look at Medicaid, there are parts of the state that are heavier Medicaid participants than others, but we got 82 counties in the state of Mississippi, and you've got Medicaid patients all in all 82 counties, and you've got people that are involved in places that are wealthier counties. You've got people that are on Medicaid in the poorest counties. Is there a specific target area in the state that Mississippi True Care is focused on with this grant, or is it truly a statewide initiative?
It's a statewide initiative. It's an opportunity for community organizations across the state to put ideas forward and to possibly get funding for those ideas, but to also build a relationship with a managed care company that's nonprofit, that is provider-based, and that wants to impact change across the state of Mississippi. So just because your grant application might not be selected this round, it doesn't mean that there's not opportunities to partner with True Care in the future.
You mentioned that July 1 is the launch date for True Care taking over this managed care program in Mississippi. Have you gotten reaction yet from organizations and communities across the state who are already interested in this, intrigued in this, wanting to learn more?
Absolutely. You know, we've had a lot of interest in the dynamic of a provider-sponsored health plan since its inception. It was started through the legislature, through legislative initiative in 2014, 2015. And ultimately, it's just been, there's a lot of interest there to see how we're going to do managed care and how we're going to do it differently to the benefit of both the patient, the provider, and ultimately the taxpayers of the state of Mississippi.
How do people apply? How do they learn more about the Community Champions grant through True Care?
Yeah, absolutely. Go to our website, www.mstruecare.com. And on the About Us section, there's a small application. It is not a heavy lift. You know, for these CBOs, we understand that oftentimes your executive director is your CEO, your CFO, your grant writer, all the things. So we wanted to make this as easy as possible for them.
And are you looking for CBOs that have a track record, or can this be, you know, brand new entities that see this as an opportunity perhaps to affect their community?
Well, ultimately, we're going to review every application and look at the merits of it. We want nonprofits that are registered with the Secretary of State. Okay. We will vet every organization that we want to award a grant to make sure that they're a legitimate organization that will be good stewards of the dollars that we do provide them. But ultimately, it doesn't matter if you've applied for 50 grants or no grants. You know, if you have an idea and you want to work with True Care, we'd like you to fill out an application and just build a relationship with us.
Ashley Thompson, CEO of True Care. That's Mississippi True. July 1st, big day. They become the provider in Mississippi for Medicaid patients. Thanks so much for your time, for sharing with us this morning. Look forward to talking to you soon. You're going to be hearing a lot about Mississippi True in the days to come. Thanks, Ashley.
Thank you, Richard.
From the Venable Glass.
All right, now to the important stuff.
Your VIP pass to hear what the most influential Mississippians are talking about.
This is very important. Huge news.
Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Pretty significant Supreme Court ruling yesterday. The United States Supreme Court voted 6-3 in favor of upholding the law in Tennessee that bans child mutilation surgeries. There's a lot to this, but I do think it is worth looking at the results of the vote. Clay Travis, I'm not always the biggest Clay Travis fan, but I thought this post was interesting. So there are 7 parents on the Supreme Court. Those parents voted 6-1 against minor children being permitted to have mutilation surgery. 2 childless women, Sotomayor and Kagan, voted 2-0 to allow it. And then he said the Democrat Party, to a large degree, now enacts the political desires of childless women. And that is, there are a lot of people that have used that as a rallying cry. I'm not vilifying that at all. There are all different kinds of circumstances that exist for why people have children, why people don't have children, why they are married, why they are single, whatever their life choices are. Clay does go on to say having kids shouldn't impact how you feel on this issue, but I do think anyone who has raised young children understands how often young children are totally and completely misguided in their beliefs. KBJ was the only mom to vote in favor of this. Makes her decision even worse, honestly. She knows what crap this is. She just cares about political popularity more than sanity. So the makeup of your Supreme Court is this: Amy Coney Barrett, John Roberts, Sonia Sotomayor, Clarence Thomas, Ketanji Brown Jackson, Brett Kavanaugh, Elena Kagan, Neil Gorsuch, Anthony Kennedy. Coney Barrett voted against this ban. Roberts voted against it. Clarence Thomas voted against it. Kavanaugh voted against it. Kagan voted for it. Ketanji Brown Jackson voted for it. Sonia Sotomayor voted for it. Gorsuch and Kennedy voted against it. So 6-3 was the ruling. And rulings like this tend to have a ripple effect, right? Because this was a Tennessee case that went all the way to the Supreme Court. And it goes back, I think the impetus on this initially was there were mutilation studies that were happening at Vanderbilt, and the state of Tennessee said, nope, this isn't going to happen here. And they put a law in place that said, no, this can't happen for minor children. They can't have these surgeries. Not saying you can't have them in life, but minor children cannot have them. Gender changing, gender mutilation, however you want to describe them.
Yeah, but if it was a cat, you'd take care of the cat. But with kids, let's just tear them up, man. Throw them away, abort them. Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
And the idea that I'm not going to use anybody else's. I'm going to use my own kids as an example. This sounds like a dad bragging, and I don't mean for it to. But all 3 of my kids are pretty sharp. Very different personalities. Have done well in school and generally make good decisions. But they're kids, right? They're kids.
And they depend on you and your wife to raise them.
They do. So I have an 8-year-old, a 12-year-old, and a 15-year-old. Is my 8-year-old in a spot where she needs to be making decisions that will affect her for the rest of her life, having to do with gender identity? Of course the answer to that is no. Of course the answer is no. She doesn't need to be making decisions about whether or not she needs to have surgery because she had a dislocated kneecap when going down an inflatable slide in the backyard. The adults in her life need to make that decision. What about my 12-year-old son? So he's 4 years older. He is, he's seen more, he's done more, generally makes good decisions, but he's a kid. He doesn't always make good decisions. Trying to figure out life. So he's not 8, he's 12. Does that qualify him to decide whether or not he needs to have a surgery that would change his life forever? Of course not. And there's not a rational adult in the United States, not a rational one, who would say, Richard, you need to stay out of the medical outcomes and the medical decisions of the life of your 12-year-old son. He can decide that on his own. Never mind the fact that if he were to make a decision on his own, it would be influenced by what I have taught him and by what Jane has taught him and by what family and friends have taught him. He doesn't have the ability to think through that on his own. Well, okay, all right. So we've thought this through with an 8-year-old. We've thought it through with a 12-year-old. Now let's think it through with a 15-year-old. 15-year-old daughter who is, again, smart, generally makes good decisions, but she's a teenage girl, which means she doesn't always make good decisions. She doesn't always make rational decisions. In fact, she is in that stage of life, and I would think that as parents, if you are a parent and you have a teenage son or daughter, and you're working with them to be the best person that they can be on a day-to-day basis, your son or daughter either seeks or you provide, whether they are seeking or not, ideas and information on how to handle situations in life, relationships, 15-year-old boyfriend, girlfriend, 15-year-old friends that are boys, that are girls. How do you handle this when you weren't included and you wanted to be included? Why are you choosing not to include someone as opposed to making them feel included? How do you deal with a friend who talked about you behind your back and you found out about it? How do you decide what to post on social media or not post on social media? How do you decide what is appropriate to wear and what's inappropriate to wear? Like all of the basic decisions that as an adult you have the capacity to make. Even your 15-year-old son or daughter still needs guidance as they are shaped as a person. But a 15-year-old has the capacity, mentally, the wisdom, the life experience to make a life-altering decision, a life-altering surgical decision about their anatomy? Like, I want to talk, if my daughter, my 15-year-old daughter, has to send a note to a teacher about why she needs help in a specific subject or about why she is not going to be in class on a specific day because of another deal, I trust the message that she's going to send, but a lot of times she'll be like, hey, Dad, will you read this and make sure it sounds good? Yeah, be happy to. Be happy to make sure to tell you, hey, you might want to phrase this differently. Or that sounds a little pushy. You might want to sound more like you're asking permission instead of you're telling what you're going to do. So really basic stuff Jane or I counsel our kids on in terms of helping them grow into a person who has the ability, as they become young adults and ultimately adults, period, to make good, rational decisions in life. Are we perfect? Absolutely not. Do we give poor advice sometimes? Yes, we do. So again, I'm only using my kids as an example in our relation because that's what I know the most, and I don't want to paint anybody else into any light. And I'm not giving parental advice. I'm just saying this is our experience. And yet, you have adults who seemingly have functioning brains. I mean, at least there's blood flow and oxygen that is getting to the brain. And adults are saying these kids should be able to make life-altering, gender-choosing, identifying, changing surgical decisions when they're 8, when they're 12, when they're 15, when they're 16, when they're 13, and all points in between. Make that make sense. Thankfully, the Supreme Court said, State of Tennessee, yes, you are right. You may ban these surgeries for minors. And yet you have 3 sitting Supreme Court justices who were like, nope, we are voting against that. Kids should be able to decide on their own. That Supreme Court decision was a win for sanity yesterday. Mornings with Richard Cross. The DNC is broke, and they want to take out loans. I'll give you the details coming up next.
From the Seabird Paint. Wake up, get up, and start your day right with Mornings with Richard Cross here on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Good to be with you this morning. The C Spire text line is open, 601-879-4395. 601-879-4395. Looking for game-changing technology? And you need C Spire on your team. 5G wireless, fiber home internet, and business IT solutions for you. Learn more at cspire.com. C Spire, inspired by you. You can join the conversation on the C Spire text line at 601-879-4395. Hello.
Did
you hear that?
The Lord is talking to you. That is banging, man.
Was that an amen on the Supreme Court banning gender-affirming surgeries?
The Lord hath spoken.
Yeah. New York Times yesterday with a report that the DNC is struggling economically.
You mean spending billions of dollars in a losing campaign is not a good investment?
Well, there's that, but also it appears, I'm just kind of connecting dots here, that maybe one of the primary funding sources for the DNC is kind of out of business. Democrat National Committee may now need to borrow money to pay its bills because it's so broke. That's according to the New York Times.
USAID is gone now, huh?
USAID, if you prefer, has been shut down, and now the DNC doesn't have money to pay its bills. Coincidence?
Wow.
Question mark? I mean, woo!
It would be too convenient for that not to add up, but I think that those two would have to be intrinsically intertwined together. If all of a sudden you're starting to have financial problems, but you had $1 billion plus to throw into a campaign, but all that slush money's gone now, and all of a sudden you can't pay your bills. Wonder if that's it's kind of like if you've been living above your means, maybe.
Possibly. It's a fascinating thing. I don't know that we're going to get any deep reporting on this. In fact, we have seen others come out and go, oh, it's not what the New York Times article says at all. Well, it's not related to USAID. No, not at all. Of course not. And how could you possibly get to that conclusion? One conclusion that many, many people would like to see the Fed come to is the lowering of interest rates, which would eventually lower housing interest rates. We had and you certainly know all about this, Lance. We went through about a decade of historically low interest rates for housing, with 30-year mortgages that with good credit were in the 3% range. It was staggering. But if you did not take advantage during that time period, then you are finding yourself now looking at the interest rates, which, again, historically still are pretty low. Now, they're not at an all-time bottom, but here's what we know. Buying a house is more expensive than it used to be. Building a house is more expensive than it used to be. And so people to buy houses or build houses are having to spend more money or borrow more money. And I point that out because as the numbers get bigger in terms of what you have to pay or borrow to buy or build your primary residence, the percentage points different make a huge difference. And I mean, if you're talking in like realistic, actual numbers, a house that, I'm trying to decide what time horizon we want to use here. Say 10 years? Certainly, I mean, you could go back 20 or 30 years and you're like, oh, this is incredible. But just 10 years ago. So we're in 2025. 2015 doesn't seem like it was that long ago, although there are things that pop up all the time that makes us feel like that was a really long time ago. But a house that you could buy, let's say for $250,000 in 2015, which would have been a modest to nice, and in some cases very nice home, depending on where you live. I mean, right? I mean, if you live in if you live in Laurel, your dollar goes farther in terms of buying a house than if you live in Oxford. And it's a supply and demand within the real estate market community. But 10 years ago, $250,000, whether you live in Oxford or Laurel or Hattiesburg or Gulfport or Ocean Springs or anywhere in between, would buy you a nice, comfortable home. New construction or on the market. Lance, what would you guess that $250,000 house costs today?
Starting in what, 2010?
Well, I was using 2015.
10 years later, 430.
Okay.
440. But I mean,
and that probably changes market to market, right? So I mean, that $250,000 house in Laurel might be $325,000 or $350,000 house today, but that $250,000 house in Oxford 10 years ago might be a $500,000 house today. But regardless of the real estate market, the cost is more today than it was 10 years ago.
Sure. Well,
but no debating that. Yeah. So, but tying this to the interest rate conversation.
Yeah.
If you had to borrow $250,000 10 years ago at, say, 4%, borrowing that same $250,000 today at 6% or 5.75%, whatever the rate is.
It's almost $100K per 1% of less borrowing power. Now, purchasing power, I should say. So,
well, but the point I'm making is your payment might be such that you can't afford today what you could have afforded 10 years ago.
Well, you also have...
and if you take into account the rising cost of the property, not only does it cost more to buy it, but your borrowing cost is more, and now you really put a lot of people in a spot where they can't afford to buy a house.
Well, on the other side, if you can't afford to buy a house, that means you got to rent a place. And when rents go from $1,500 a month to $2,800 a month in about 16 months, you have a problem, a major problem.
Absolutely.
Because incomes aren't keeping up with that. And I wanted to make one point about interest rates. 1981, highest period we knew of, 16.64%. You know how many housing starts there were that year? 1.1 million, the lowest since 1946. Fast forward to 1988, where you had interest rates that were at 10.25%. Housing starts in that year were 1.5 million.
They go up as rates go down.
There you go. So if you have a scarcity problem, high interest rates do not solve the problem of scarcity.
But the chairman of the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, spoke yesterday, and he said interest rates really aren't the issue. we need to control inflation. Listen to Jerome Powell in his own words.
Best thing we can do for the American people, for households and businesses, that is the ultimate thing that we can deliver. And they can make their decisions without having to think about inflation all the time. So in the meantime, we have to keep rates high to get inflation all the way down. They're not very high.
Rates are not very high. He says we are not in a restrictive economy, but we got to keep rates up in order to get inflation down. I thought the inflationary reports over the last 3 months were trending down over and over and over. Donald Trump on a daily basis, I mean, his quote yesterday about Jerome Powell was, he's too late. He should have dropped the rates. He doesn't like me. I've tried everything. I've tried to be nice. I've tried to be nasty. I've tried to invite him to dinner. He just doesn't like me, and so he's not going to move the rates.
Well, I mean, again,
but also he's not in a position where the president can remove him from his job.
Well, the Fed is a weird thing. I mean, you have a dual mandate of maximum employment and stable prices. They've never been able to do that. Never. And
it's kind of what we're doing right now, though. Employment is up in 3 consecutive months. Inflation is either down or missed the target that people thought it was going to be. The stock market has done quite well, thank you very much. But Powell continues to insist that no. We gotta make sure that inflation is not influencing your decisions monetarily on a day-to-day basis. And so we got to get rid of inflation. We are at normal inflationary levels for multiple months now. He does go on to say, if tariffs weren't in place, we'd have a little more certainty about what the economy was going to do.
Yeah.
Oh, so you don't like tariffs. That's the issue. Lower the rates. That helps people. We thrive when money...
From the Venable Glass Training.
You're waking up to what's happening. Mornings with Richard Cross. Right now on Super Talk, Mississippi.
All right, got a couple of parting shots for you this morning. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. Appreciate you being along for the ride with us. Don't forget, you've got Gerard coming along at 10 this morning from 10 until 1. Steve Azar along for the ride from 1 until 2 within a Mississippi Minute, hosted by Steve Azar and presented by Superior Catfish. Then it's Rebecca Turner with Good Things with Rebecca Turner. That's from 2 to 3, followed by Sports Talk Mississippi, Michael Borky and Robbie Falk. Robbie in for Brian Haydad, who is on vacation this week. In the month of May, 0 illegals were released into the United States after coming across the border.
What?
0.
Is that possible?
In May of 2024, the number was 64,000. Not 64. Not 6,400. 64,000. Which reminds us that we should listen to Joe Biden.
Every day between now and November, the American people are going to know that the only reason the border is not secure is Donald Trump and his MAGA Republican friends.
The only reason the border is not secure. Remember, Donald Trump said, hey, don't vote for that bill. The ones that Democrats, they're like, we had a bipartisan bill that would control the border. No, you had a bipartisan bill that was going to pave the way for a whole lot of people that were already here to stay.
Yeah, they were just going to build like a high-speed train headed north, one direction.
That's what the bill was going to do, and Republicans, to their credit, voted against it. You didn't need legislation. You need a president committed to securing the border. And that's what you got with Donald Trump. Illegals released into the United States after border crossings this past May, 19 days ago, concluding the month. 0. Illegals released May of 2024, 64,000. Not to mention the deportation numbers. We know, and it's funny, right? Not ha-ha funny, but like, that's curious, funny. The deportation numbers for Donald Trump in his first 5 months are actually trailing the deportation numbers of Barack Obama when he was president.
Yep. Nobody wants to hear that.
By a fairly significant amount. What it does not account for, the deportation numbers, is the voluntary deportations. Remember, Trump said, hey, if you're here illegally and you leave voluntarily, we'll help you get home. We will foot the bill for getting you out. You're not going to face any criminal issues, any arrests, any family separations. We'll get you home if you say, hey, I'm here illegally and I'm going to voluntarily deport. Over 1 million people have taken advantage of that. Now, that does not factor into the deportation numbers in Donald Trump's time in office compared to the time that Biden was in or Obama was in or, heck, George Bush was in. And then finally, there's this. Michigan wildlife experts were able to trap a black bear and remove a large lid that had been stuck around his neck for 2 years. There's no specific justification for why the bear had the lid of a large bucket stuck around his head. But if you kind of know what's going on, you know what happened. So baiting bears in Michigan is legal. But generally speaking, the bear traps or the bear baiting have holes in the lids of these, 50-gallon drums or 30-gallon drums that have the bait inside them are big enough that a bear can get his head in and out. Well, this bear, maybe he had an abnormally large head for a tyke at the time, got his head in the bucket lid and was somehow able to dislodge the lid from whatever it was connected to, but he couldn't get his head out. And so they've got trail camera pictures of this bear from as early as 2 years ago working his way through the woods with the lid of a bucket around his neck. Cody Norton, a wildlife specialist, said it's pretty incredible that the bear survived and was able to feed himself. The neck was scarred and missing hair, but the bear was in much better condition than we expected it to be. Wildlife officials were able to trap the bear, give it a shot to immobilize him, cut the lid off his head, and then just leave him be. And when the bear woke up, he just rambled off. Didn't even say thank you. Bear stories. Lance, I'm trying to imagine you. Like if there was a 50-gallon drum that was rigged up as some sort of a feeder, but was actually a trap, and you stuck your head right through it, but then you couldn't get it out.
For 2 years, yeah.
And for 2 years, you had to walk around with the lid of a big old drum or bucket around your neck.
That'd be miserable, man. I'm just glad he made it.
Like, think those dog collars, like to keep them from licking themselves or scratching themselves? For 2 years.
He just finally got used to it. Said, all right, I'm gonna own it.
Just going to figure out a way to survive. That's your bear news. Thanks for being with us. Enjoyed the show this morning. Appreciate your interaction on the C Spire text line. Mornings with Richard Cross. Have a great Thursday.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.